All right, ready to dive into something pretty amazing? We're talking about how faith is playing a role in fighting HIV/AIDS in Kenya.
And we're not just talking about awareness campaigns here.
Right.
We're talking about real change, measurable change, and a lot of it driven by this group, Inarella Kenya.
Okay, Inarella Kenya, they're the ones to watch, huh?
They're a network of religious leaders, and get this, they're either living with HIV/AIDS or directly affected by it.
Wow.
And they've been working directly with UNAIDS and PEPFAR over the past year, and the progress they've made is seriously impressive.
Working with UNAIDS and PEPFAR, okay. So before we go any further, can you remind me what we're looking at here? We've got progress reports, we've got program evaluations, they even presented at ICASA 2023, right?
Right. All of these sources, they come together to show how faith-based organizations, or FBOs as you'll see them called a lot, are becoming really important in preventing HIV/AIDS.
Okay, so we're talking about impact here.
Real impact.
I like it. So where did Inarella Kenya even start? That's a big issue to take on.
Well, they knew that knowledge is power.
Right?
So they went straight to the source.
Yeah.
Religious leaders and young people.
Ah, the influencers.
Exactly.
It makes sense. Those are the people folks really listen to.
They really are.
Was there a specific knowledge gap that they were trying to fill?
One of the biggest things was awareness and understanding of combination prevention methods.
Okay.
Things like pre-P, pre-exposure prophylaxis, and PP, post-exposure prophylaxis.
Right, those are game changers.
Huge. And a lot of people knew about them.
Okay, got it. So they focused on these combination prevention methods.
Yeah.
What kind of results did they see?
So get this. Before the training, only a tiny fraction of the religious leaders understood these methods.
Like how small are we talking?
Like 17.86%.
Oh, wow.
But after, 68%.
Now we're talking, that's progress.
Huge jump.
But I'm guessing they didn't just stop at training, did they?
No way.
Right.
They knew that the knowledge without action is like, well, it's not going to get you very far.
So we've got all these religious leaders and young people all armed with this knowledge about combination prevention.
Right.
What did they actually do?
Well, they put it into action. We're talking like HIV testing drives during church services.
Really?
Community outreach programs, educational workshops, all the...
Wow.
These leaders were out there.
Okay, I like it.
Putting it all into practice.
So they were really meeting people where they are.
Exactly.
But what about the younger generation? How'd they get them involved?
Okay, so this is where it gets really creative.
Okay.
Remember that Harmony for Health concert I mentioned?
Oh, yeah, that's the one where they got a ton of young people tested, right?
Yeah. So they basically took education about HIV prevention and combined it with live music, dancing. They even had some skits going on performed by other young people.
So less lecture, more fun.
Exactly. It was edutainment at its finest.
Did it work?
They had 81 people get tested at that one concert.
Really? Just from that one event?
Just from that one event.
That's pretty remarkable.
It is. And, it wasn't just a one-off thing.
Right.
They did other events just like it, all tailored for young people, using that same edutainment model.
So this brings up something I've been wondering about.
Okay.
Kenya has a large migrant population.
Right.
And, we know migrant communities often face some unique challenges when it comes to healthcare.
For sure.
Did Inarella address this at all?
They did, and it's a really important part of their work.
Okay.
Because you're right, migrant communities, they face a lot of barriers, like language differences. Maybe they don't have proper documentation. There's that fear of deportation if their immigration status is tied to their health.
Right. And on top of all that, they might not even know where to go for healthcare.
Exactly. So one of the first things that Inarella did was recognize how important faith-based organizations are in these communities.
Right.
Because for a lot of migrants, their church, their mosque, their temple, whatever it may be, that's their lifeline.
Yeah, it's where they find community.
Absolutely. It's support. It's often the only place they can get reliable information.
So they saw that trust was already there.
Exactly.
And decided to work with it.
Yeah, and the data really shows how important that is.
Okay.
There's this statistic. It's from Malawi.
Okay.
It's another country that's dealing with similar things, right?
Right.
79.2% of migrants there relied on FBOs for HIV testing.
Wow. That's
huge.
That really shows you how vital these organizations are.
Really is.
Were there any, roadblocks when Inarella Kenya was working with migrant communities? Anything they struggled with?
One of the big things was a lack of services specifically for HIV in migrant-only congregations. So a lot of migrants will form their own, faith communities.
Right, separate from ones that already exist.
Exactly. And those new congregations, they don't always have the resources or even the knowledge to deal with HIV effectively.
It makes sense. They're starting from scratch, new country, new everything.
Exactly. So many challenges.
So that's why Innarella's work with these congregations is so important.
Huge.
It's like they're giving them the tools.
The tools and the knowledge. Absolutely.
To combat stigma and everything.
Yeah.
It's incredible, but they didn't stop there, did they? They went beyond just the local level.
No, they did not.
Right.
This is where it gets really exciting.
Okay, tell me more.
So they took their mission to the global stage.
Let me guess. ICASA.
ICASA 2023, that's right.
You were there.
They were front and center.
The International Conference on AIDS and STIs in Africa, that's a big deal.
Huge, yeah. 700 faith leaders, all in one place, sharing strategies, pushing for change.
What were some of their, main messages there at ICASA?
They were leading workshops on stigma and discrimination, advocating for more funding for FBOs,
Makes sense.
and pushing for policies that actually protect vulnerable groups.
So they went from local action to global advocacy.
Exactly.
That's smart.
That's how you create real change.
It's amazing how they connected those two.
It really is.
We've covered a lot. We've seen how Inarella is training these leaders, using these really creative methods, tackling huge challenges.
And getting results?
Exactly. But it's not over, is it?
Never over, no.
Right.
It's important to celebrate the wins, but you got to keep going.
So if we had to, sum up everything we've learned here, what would you say is the biggest takeaway?
I think it's that faith communities, they're not on the sidelines in this fight. Not at all. They're out there making things happen.
Yeah, agents of change.
Exactly.
But if you were to advise Inarella Kenya now, what would you say they should focus on in the coming year?
Two things come to mind. First, those migrant-only congregations we talked about. We need to keep supporting them.
Absolutely.
They're facing such unique challenges.
Makes sense.
The second thing is documentation.
Okay.
And in Inarella Kenya's work, the impact was incredible.
Oh, yeah.
But imagine if they had even more data to back it up.
Right. Hard numbers.
Exactly. It's so powerful. It helps with funding. It strengthens their message.
It's like they say, if it's not documented, it didn't happen.
Exactly.
Data is power.
For sure.
So as we resurface from this deep dive, we're left with this thought. If you were advising Inarella Kenya, what's the one thing they should focus on to keep this momentum going? What would your deep dive uncover? That's something to think about. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking those tough questions, and keep diving deep.